you get the idea. Now you're going to hear the regional officers present their regional Honors in Action project. Part of their design, part of the hope is that the chapter, maybe new, inexperienced, who's still kind of baffled by this whole complexity, what appears to be a complexity, which in reality is not, then you can take what they've done and then just piggyback on it and create your own action right off of what they did. Advisors will know this is a process, and it's been an interesting and actually fun process to watch these guys develop their project. We've had a number of online teleconferences, and it was interesting to see the discussions back and forth. Most of the time, I was actually they didn't even know I was online. I was just listening, I really didn't say a word until I was asked, because they did a fantastic job, and I believe you're going to benefit from what they're going to present to you. So without further ado, let's have your Middle States regional officers coming up, and they'll sit here and give you guys.
Regional Honors in Action project, and we wanted to continue on and do that again. So just to start out, we'll jump right into this. First step is choosing a theme. And okay, raise your hand. How many of you online on the Middle States regional page voted for a theme for the Regional Honors in Action project? So we posted a poll about a week or two after we became regional officers to find out what you guys would be interested in for Regional Honors in Action. Keep your hands raised. Okay, how many of you did not vote that are on the page currently? Okay, so for those of you who did not vote, I should have put my hand down. For those of you who did not vote, if you're not happy with what theme we chose, but we ended up choosing, after we did that, we had two themes that ultimately came up on top. Theme 1, which is ultimately why we explore. The actual title is Nature of the Quest. And theme 7, which is Health and Medicine as Frontiers. So the next step we had to do is we looked at those two. We had to decide which was better as an opportunity for us to use for our Regional Honors in Action study topic and Honors in Action project. We decided to do theme 1 because we felt that it lent itself to the region better than any of the other ones. While many people were probably very interested in the frontiers of health and medicine, not everybody was. And we wanted to make sure this was something that applies to everybody in the region. It's a wide topic that can be filtered down very easily and apply to the interests of everybody. So the next step we had to take after that was going to be narrowing it down and formulating questions, which I'm going to actually pass on to Rana and Paige to talk about a little bit more how we do that.
So after we narrowed it down to why do we seek and explore frontiers, the next step was trying to research the topic more and trying to get an idea of what we really want to focus on. So what we did was each of us kind of discussed what our take on it, or like our critical questions that we wanted to research were. Each person provided a different perspective, but what we want to do is try to make it more interactive. So right now, we just want to take a couple of answers that you guys would provide as to why do we seek and explore frontiers. Any answers? We're just asking you just to take. before we tell you our answers. Okay, learning. Just check it out.
Search for knowledge.
Knowledge.
Forward motion.
Curiosity. Change. Source of happiness.
Ideals.
Ideas. Okay, these are all really good. Okay. So what we're going to do right now is just kind of pass it down, and then each one of our officers is going to tell you just what their kind of subtopic was, just very quickly. So mine was Greek.
Well, I took a scientific approach to the question of exploration because it pertains to my major and my interests for engineering.
I took a general way. I went with human experience just because I'm a free spirit.
Coming from a background in education, I took a epistemological approach and looked into what influences we have towards choosing our own frontiers.
Pretty much, I just looked into why people educate themselves and different reasons how they use education to explore frontiers. And I also looked into decision making and how people make that decision to explore a frontier and all that theory behind that.
Alrighty, and then my focus point for my research was leadership, why we choose to become leaders and explore that as a frontier, whether leaders are made or whether they are born, and I'm going to repeat myself again, why we choose to be leaders and what is the overall focus and what causes us to want to do that.
Yeah, well, the process, so as you can see, there are probably about as many different answers to this question as there are people, just because that's sort of the virtual property of the nature of the way it is. But when we're looking at this question, and when we're trying to formulate, or when we're looking at this topic, and we're formulating our own questions, then we have to go and we have to do research. So after we had a number of meetings at this point, then we're going to go, and what we did was some scholarly academic research to try and explore sort of 2 or 3, I guess, main questions that you could come up with that are in line with the view that you're taking and the approach that you're taking towards trying to better understand the nature of why we explore new frontiers.
So I have the privilege to open up. Like I said before, I talked about human experience. So why is it that we do what we do? That was like one of the questions I had and wanted to answer. Each of us, we're unique. So we have our own special ways, and we've been through different struggles. We have different things that push us. But we do have a couple of things that all of us have in common, and they're characteristics, or we can call them traits, and there are 6 of them. And the first one is certainty. It's assurance you can avoid pain and gain pleasure. The second one is variety. Need for change, new stimuli. I know some of you guys have work at Starbucks or have jobs, and you don't want to stay there for 20 years. So humans in general, we all want to have new things. We all want to move on from stone A to stone B. We don't want to be stuck in the same job for like 30 years. Connection, love, love. Well, we as humans, we like to have a strong feeling of union. Just like all of us, we're all family, and we're all family. None of us are a stranger, and we all feel warm and cozy together. So all humans, we all like to have that special bond. And significance, we all like to feel unique. We all like to feel important. We all like to feel the top notch. But on a side note, I know Mr. John Ortiz, he helped me put this in my brain. Not you, me and my colleagues and I, we're all up here, but as regional officers, that's just a name. We're all the same as you guys. You guys are us, we are you guys, we're all equal. You all guys have the same input, the same say as we do, so just wanted to point that out. The fifth one is growth. We all like to grow, we all like to expand, we all like to expand our understanding, our capability. And number 6 is contribution. So we all like to give back to our communities. You all like to give back. You all like to give a helping hand to those who are in need or those who are unfortunate. But to me, curiosity is, I don't know about you guys, but curiosity is the thing that really pushes me. Curiosity kills a cat, but it don't kill me. So when your curiosity grows, your critical thinking also expands. So that's a good way of putting it. We're naturally attracted to something uncommon. You know, there's something right there that we see and it we get attached to it, like why this, why that. There's some people, you ask them, why is the sky blue? They'll be like, oh, because God made it that way. But then you have some other people and they ask, what makes it blue? What makes the clouds white? What makes it gray? You know? So they think outside the box. But in all, human experience is something that there's no manual for it, you know? It's something that you live through. What you live through, that's your human experience. There's no way of writing it. What is it, positive, negative? That's part of your human experience. It just depends on the way you take it. If something negative comes at you, you don't let it beat you. You let it make you strong. So that's how I saw this question on why we need to expand explore our frontiers. Thank you.
So, like I said earlier, my focus was leadership. If you looked at the guide, the example group in there did women. So I wanted to focus on something a little more exact, so I did leadership. When I started out my research, I went on my school's library, and I went through all these articles. I found military articles, I found a speech that was given to Boy Scouts, all this other stuff. But my most helpful resource that I found, that I actually stumbled upon by accident, I was at work and I was on my lunch break and I walked by the bookstore and I see the Last Chance clearance bookshelf. And I'm glancing through there and I see this book and I'm just like, well, that's interesting. It's by Jeremy Kubicek. It's called Leadership is Dead, How Influence is Reviving It. And I said, well, that's a really interesting title. I was like, leadership is dead. That's kind of crazy. So I bought it. It was $5. I was like, I have to read this. And I was like, not only that, it also goes towards my research for the Regional Honors and Actions project. So I'm reading through this, and this stuff is actually, I recommend this book to everybody. Basically, it starts out, obviously leadership is not dead. But what it's talking about is that the idea of leadership is changing, where it used to be thought that leadership's, you have to be powerful and overwhelming and controlling people. But how now in new economies and the way the world is changing, it's more about your influence through empowerment. And that's where my research ended up taking me. One of my favorite quotations in here, if I can flip there really quick without being thinking too long. He's talking about a friend of his who's actually a CEO of a very successful Ford company. He has good relationships with all of his team members, and because of that, they're so successful. My favorite line in here says, he empowers because he has been empowered. And that is where my research ended up taking me, is we seek to be leaders because somebody else has empowered us to be there. And I think that's overwhelming with more than just leadership at all. And a lot of us ended up getting there as well. But I won't go in too much into that because we're going to talk about that later. So I'm actually going to pass it down to Anthony now.
Okay, so the way that I got started with my research was a tad bit different than Sam's. I was on Facebook, and I just finished on talking about doing research, and I was scrolling the newsfeed, and something caught my attention, This Week in Science. And, you know, being the nerd that I am, I love looking at those articles and seeing what they say. And one of the things there, it was talking about how they have this theory that if you smash two photons together, that you can create mass, which I thought was pretty interesting, being that I love science. So I decided to Google it, and I watched a video on YouTube from Neil deGrasse Tyson. And I love him, he's a great guy. So then I was like, you know what, let me see what Neil has to say in regards to education and, you know, exploring frontiers and everything like that. And that's how I got started with my research. What I actually watched was a video I watched a couple videos. I like watching videos and watching lectures over reading. That's just me. And it was a presentation from Neil deGrasse Tyson at the University of Washington. And pretty much what he was talking about was how we are not progressing. And like we talked about before, there's a lot of STEM jobs that we do not qualify for. And that's a problem. All right, on Thursday, April 13, 2036, do you guys know that there's a chance that an asteroid might hit 500 kilometers west of Santa Monica? And if it does hit, it'll be, pretty much destroy the west coast of the U.S. So with that being said, you would think that the people most interested in not having that not occur would be, I don't know, maybe us, but it's going to collide and kill many people, houses, destroy, not good things. So what Neil said, the problem was that the people who were trying to fund and stop this were not NASA and the U.S., it was the Russians. That's a problem. The Russians, it has really no interest. I mean, it's not really, if it works, great, they save some people and, territory and all that, but if it doesn't, it's not really their country that it's really affecting. The people who it really, should have the most interest to is us, because it's, the whole side of the West Coast. Yeah, so I'd mark that down. If you're planning on going to the West Coast, make sure you're not there. Okay? Then he was, another thing here was he kind of went talking with the rest of the world. We have this bias that, America, is great, and we are number one, and the rest of the world is like over there somewhere. But it's not really the case anymore. And if we don't get, our act together, it can lead into potential problems. China's aerospace industry is growing 13% a year, and their economy is growing 10% a year. Brazil, most of the planes that you fly from regional airports and all that are actually designed and built in Brazil right now. Yeah, go Brazil. And they also designed a plane that can be run on alcohol. Yeah. So the thing, price of alcohol as well. But no, it's those kind of things that he was saying that you do not think about. You don't think of Brazil designing new planes and having a boosting aerospace industry. And the really big thing that I got from him is that we in America we have a fear or ignorance of numbers now in science. And that's a problem. It's been causing this trend. And if this trend continues, the trend that over the past 10 years from 2000 to 2010 really continues the way it has, we're going to continue having a decline in STEM majors, which is not good. Let me see here. Bad engineering is also a big problem. Like he was saying that in 2007 we had a major bridge collapse in Minnesota. He's like, why is bridge fallings in Minnesota if there's bridges from the ancient Roman Empire in Europe that are still standing? Why is it that in the year 2007 we can't get a bridge to work? Like these are problems. Why are we having in 2008 we had 2 trains collide in Los Angeles? let's face it, you know, two things, can't be in the same place at the same time, it doesn't work. You know, in 2010, the oil spill in Mexico, the Gulf of Mexico, you guys remember that, that wasn't too long ago. So these are huge engineering problems, and it's causing a big problem here. The last thing that I'll leave from Neil deGrasse Tyson is there was a survey that was done, you know, internationally, and it pretty much the question was, did humans evolve from an earlier species? It was talking about evolution. And 37 countries were, you know, asked this question, people. We were next to last. Next to last, yeah. We were one above, like, Hungary, I believe. Hungary was last. We had, yeah, it's really not good. And that kind of talks about, you know, talking about the science that a lot of people answered, about 50% said, you know, evolution. A good chunk of them said, we have no idea. And, you know, the other half said that there's no proof for evolution. So, you know, when you look at that, that's kind of scary. The second research I did was from Dr. Michio Kaku. He's a theoretical physicist at New York University. Many of you have probably seen him on TV as well. And his quote here is, "Science is the engine of prosperity, you know, from steam power to electricity, transistors, and computers. But we have a problem here in America, and it's our education system. Because the U.S. has the worst education system known as science." Okay? And he was saying, right now right now we're still in a good place, as far as we've not really gone downhill yet. But the problem is, you have a lot of people, you know, coming here because we attract the brightest minds from all over the world. And they, you know, for a good time they were staying here, but now like Silicon Valley and all that, a lot of them are now going back to their country. So we have this situation where we have jobs that people do not qualify for here. And another thing here was, another statistic was 50% of all PhD candidates in the US are foreign born. Yeah, and he was saying that, you know, in his program, 1 year, 100% of his graduates were foreign born. So, you know, when you see that, you see a lot of people are going else, you know, we need to step it up. The last thing here, and I'll leave with this, was on decision making and why people make decisions. It was from Dan Gilbert. He's a professor of psychology at Harvard. And pretty much it talks about why people make decisions, and a lot of it, there's actually an equation that you can use to make your decisions, and it's pretty much the expected value equals the odds of the game times the value of the game. And, you know, it's a legit question. You can plug in numbers, and it'll give you, you know, you can base, you know, what your calls, what the gains are leading to see if it's a good investment or not. But a lot of this here deals with, there's two problems with this equation, and that's people don't know how to make how to estimate the odds of their game and how to estimate the value of their game. So it's, you know, hard stuff. Like, you know, if I told you guys 15,000 people will die next year, a lot of you would be freaking out, like, oh my God, what's happening? That's not good. But then if I told you it was the common cold, you know, that people were going to die from, you'd be like, oh, you know, why don't we see this in the news? But it's because it's so common that people don't put it in the news. Another thing here was about the lottery. A lot of people play the lottery. But if everyone that played the lottery got a 30-second segment, that would be 9.5 years of you seeing people saying, "Hi, my name is Jesus Anthony Brunel, and I lost the lottery." You see that for 9.5 years, and then the last 30 seconds would be someone saying, "Hi, my name is, and I won the lottery." So if you saw that for 9.5 years nonstop, you kind of wouldn't want to play the lottery. But all you see on TV is, "Oh my God, I won." So you have this perspective. And, you know, you really went into, people have this perspective, and a lot of it is from, you know, what they see on TV and everything like that. And I'll leave with one of his quotes here. And it pretty much talked about that the only thing that can doom us is our inability to make decisions by underestimating the odds of our future pains and overestimating the value of our current pleasures.
So from the scientific sort of technology, I guess, perspective, explore? Why do we seek new frontiers? My suspicion is that a lot of the grand scientific discoveries that have been made throughout history, the people who made them may not have necessarily understood the significance of the discovery while it was happening, or at least not until after the fact, after it had been made obvious to them. Take Isaac Newton, for example. He didn't even publish his work on integral calculus until he was urged to do so by a colleague at Oxford. This suggests to me that the greatest minds, they don't think along those lines. They don't think along the lines of, oh my goodness, I'm exploring, I am making these incredible discoveries and I'm going to be known or famous or whatever. They just do. They're hungry, their minds. They have an appetite for knowledge. They have an appetite, an insatiable one, in some cases, to understand why just whatever it is that they're passionate about is the way that it is and not something else. Dmitry Mendeleev, a Russian. Russians, so for the record, they do care about science. They have for centuries. They just, could be the case. Well, no, it is the case that political interests get in the way sometimes, I guess, of things. But Dmitry Mendeleev famously categorized the atoms according to their properties in terms of, well, what would come to be known as electronegativity. He revolutionized the entire discipline of chemistry by creating the periodic table. There was a time when that didn't exist. And he was rejected by the University of Moscow. He studied chemistry because he loved learning about matter. He loved learning. He was passionate about just understanding why things are the way that they are. And he effectively amassed a body of knowledge in his own right that was so vast that it enabled him to be able to see patterns that nobody else in academia at the time would have been able to recognize, or at least not the way that he did. So that's significant. Why? Because he was personally invested, he was passionate. So, depending on, and like I said earlier, it's going to be a little different for everybody because everybody has a slightly different perspective, and I think Carlos touched on this nicely, is that why we explore, it's personal, it's for you. The question, why do we explore, it has to do with what you're passionate about, because invariably, you're going to have to figure out what it is that you are passionate about, and then you're going to have to go and learn. And the greatest minds learn for the sake of learning. They don't do it for personal gain or wealth or anything else. And then once you learn and develop an understanding that is so vast, then you can actually turn around and make these great discoveries. And I think that's significant. Well, it is significant from where I'm coming from and my approach to this question. Why do we explore? Passionate about learning. I think either this is or this is something that's pointing towards the answer to the question. Why do we seek new frontiers and try to explore?
So, as I said, my take on it was greed. What I was thinking is, why do we seek to explore? Well, that's because humans are insatiable. There is nothing that can satisfy them. They always want something better, something more, and it just keeps going. So I started researching about greed, and I came across Bernard Mandeville, I believe I'm saying his name correct, and he had kind of a theory on like why we seek to explore, and that's pretty much like our personal vices become public benefits. So what I am personally interested in, and if I'm like following my personal interest for just selfish reasons, then eventually it'll become public benefits. And for like some examples, it could be like Steve Jobs or Bill Gates. When they were like looking at, when they're making Apple or Microsoft, do you really think they thought about you, or they thought about the computer or how great it's going to affect your lives? No, they wanted to be wealthy. They wanted to control something. They wanted something for themselves. But in time, it became better for everyone else. It makes our lives kind of easier, but at the same time, not because you're attached to your phone. So then I couldn't find too much else about greed. So I was thinking maybe I'm looking at this a little bit too closely. So I need to step back and look at the greater picture. What I came up with was motives. You know, greed is kind of a motive for some people. It might be kind of a negatively connotated word, which is why a lot of people might not think of it first. You know, this is motivating me, I'm greedy. But it sometimes is, like if we actually think about it. And so other motives could be power and control. Some leaders are just in it for power and control, that's what it is. Some of them could be good if they are able to do that. A lot of times we see them, you know, being dictators and being bad leaders, but, you know, kind of their personal style. Another thing is, you know, there are leaders, I forget the technical term for it, but if there's a problem right now with an organization, it's bothering them that there's a problem and there's no solution. So what they have to do is solve that problem. They have to take lead in order for that problem to be solved. Others just kind of like the opportunity to work with others. So there's the more altruistic kind, which we all gravitate towards, we want to be a part of. So in general, it's like what I was taking for it is motivation. It's yourself being motivated to lead something, to want to be a part of something, and then in time it becomes an exploration, and then it becomes like a public benefit to all. So sometimes it's a little bit more, you know, personal interest, and I guess it works with everything else.
Thank you, Rana. Okay, before I get into mine, I want to give you guys a quick word. From the moment that you begin cognitive thought as an infant, you are being influenced by the people around you and everything that you take in. Everything you see, smell, taste, touch, hear, and learn is all being encoded, and it's all being used to base what you understand about the world around you. Now, getting into that, I chose my branch of Theme 1 to focus down epistemology, and more on that, I was looking at how are we influenced by the people around us in order to develop our own frontier-seeking skills. Quick show of hands, who knows what epistemology is? Okay, what's epistemology? The study of knowledge, that's absolutely 100% correct. That coming from an education background and being the head chair in the teaching academy at my high school, I was in love with epistemology. I wrote research papers on research papers after it. So when that was the first word I saw in the theme book when I read over it, that just kept me locked in. I was like, this is it. This is where I can really, you know, shine with what I already know. On top of that, I did some research, and by the way, like Sam said, if your school offers a online database of research articles that you can use that to your advantage. That has been, throughout any research that I've ever had to do, the #1 most useful resource I've had. But getting into epistemology, like she said, epistemology is the study of knowledge, and in recent times, we've kind of shifted our focus on what exactly we mean by the study of knowledge. Before, it was just how is it important to the individual? How does the individual learn? How do they take in everything they see? In recent years, in just the past couple of years, they've actually started branching epistemology out, and they're saying, you know, let's get a little more practical with the situation. Let's come up with a few ideas on not just how we take it in, but how we use it. Not just what we're learning, but who we're learning it from and what sources we're using to keep it attached. And that's where my two most distinct points of knowledge that I came up with through my research that I did for the topic come into play. Social epistemology and virtue epistemology. To start off, social epistemology is taking that, who do we learn it from, and in what context are we learning? Like I said, from the moment we're born, and from the moment we start having that thought process, from the moment that we start learning, everything affects us. Everything from first our parents, we realize our parents do this, maybe we can do the same. We see kids as we're growing up in school, they're playing in that set, maybe I should play over with that set too. We learn in high school, these are the kids that all go around and have fun. If I want to have fun, I'll go with them. If these are the kids who are studying hard and get good grades, if I want to get good grades, I'll study like them. We are creatures of habit in the sense that we see what others are doing, and if we think it'll work for us, we'll try to imitate that. Every once in a while, we add our own personal touch to it, and that's what helps us advance as a society to take what we get and try to add our own little touch and see if it works. If not, we go back to square one. The entire point of social epistemology is that we're not so much focusing on how we're going to use that knowledge. We're focusing on where it's coming from and how we're obtaining it in. And then we get on to virtue epistemology. This is something that was derived from Aristotle, and it's taken thousands of years to finally get into play. This is something that we're not really looking at the cognitive content. We're not really looking at what we're learning anymore like we do with the original meaning of epistemology. We're looking at how do we learn properly. Not what we're learning, not how we're learning, but in what format. It really focuses on the understanding and how exactly we put it into our own terms. Key belief behind this is understanding the difference between true knowledge and true belief. The terminology for those can be best described through examples. True belief is something that you have come to understand is true, but you have never experienced for yourself. It is something that, yes, I am absolutely sure that it will happen, but I've never had it happen myself. True knowledge is where you've seen it. You've seen it applied, you've seen it come into play, you've seen it worked out. If there's anybody that I could put into the best example, scuba divers. Scuba diver A has just went out to a new lake he's never explored before, and he wants to go look around. First he asks a few people about the lake you had. Scuba diver B says, oh, well, if you're diving, there's this underwater cavern about 100 feet down or so that you can go in and surface up for air. Scuba diver A now has true belief that if he goes down there 100 feet, he's going to find an underwater cavern that he can surface for air. But he has no knowledge of it. He does not have concrete knowledge of, he does not have his own personal experience to touch with it. Now when he goes down there and he finds it, that's where he picks up the knowledge. And that is where he can then be that person who, when someone new comes in and says this, well, he now has that knowledge that he can give them the belief that's there. It's a continuous cycle leading down and just giving other people the ability to keep going on with their own personal findings with it. Now, those were the biggest keys to my research, and I feel that as leaders, we should be focusing on autonomizing that learning. We should be focusing on getting our true knowledge first, and then teaching to people so they have true belief and then go on and find knowledge of their own. And one of the keys behind that, we're going to be moving into our next step in our Honors in Action project now. One of our real focuses that we all kind of centralized around was empowerment. We were all thinking about the fact that we are Phi Theta Kappas, we are not always natural born leaders. Some of us learn through trial and error, and some of us just click right with it. But no matter what, to be a leader, you have to be able to motivate others. You have to be able to get them to start looking into it themselves. And someone best described it to me in one of our officer meetings a couple weeks ago, Mr. John Ortiz. And I posted this quote up on the Facebook page, which, by the way, any of you that haven't liked the Facebook page, great stuff's always being turned out on it, quotes, activities, events going on. So any of you that haven't liked the Facebook page yet, you can take a second to do so right now while I'm rambling on, or when you get home, or when you finally find internet in this place. It's an incredible, also the fan page, because both of them are always popping out great stuff. But anyways, after that little plug-in, the quote that I posted up, you are all empowered. Your job now is to go empower others. When I first became a regional officer, when I was first elected back here in New Jersey a couple months ago, I thought that I was going to be a leader in the sense that I was going to lead you guys. That I was going to tell you guys, hey, this is what you're going to go do. I want you to go do it. And it worked. This quote changed my entire thought about leadership. I no longer look at you all as people that I can tell, hey, go do that. I am now looking at all of you in here. I'm looking at advisors, alumni, and students alike. And I'm saying, I want to give you the tools so that you can go out and be your own leader. So that you can go find people that you can lead. So that we can keep this process autonomized. Now, getting into how that reflects in the honors in action, and more specifically to our honors in action plans, we decided as a group that rather than come up with a plan, we felt that the purpose of the Regional Honors in Action project was so that you guys could see that we've done the research, we've gone through, we came up with ideas, and now it's your turn. We feel that we want to give you guys the tools and empower you to make your own decision about honors in action. You can take all the research that we've done, you can take everything that we've looked into, from epistemology to engineering to leadership, and you can say, maybe I can do that. Maybe there's something that we can pick up, do a little more research, and roll on with. And that is really what we feel the purpose of the Regional Honors in Action is. Not just our plan, but your plan. And for that, I'm going to pass it on to Anthony.
So does anybody want to share any ideas that they, of what they think? I mean, like Mike had said before, this is, the purpose of this is to be broad enough that anybody here can take anybody who chooses and would like to, can take the information that we've all provided to you guys and really, use what you want or, pick and choose and really, use that as a base to help you guys with your projects. But, ultimately, you guys can take this many different ways, and it's up to you how you'd like to do your project. And there's no one correct answer, because as we were discussing one time, the answer to the question why we explore frontiers is because there is no one answer. There's multiple answers, and there's no wrong answer as long as you back it up. You want to share?
Certainty, variety, connection / love, love, significance, growth, and contribution. One more time? Which one are you missing? Certainty, variety, connection, significance, growth, contribution. No problem.
Alright, so this is the point in our panel that we want to turn to you guys. After hearing everything that we've researched, anything that you kind of gripped onto, is there anything that you can just think off the top of your head? Because one of the largest parts after research is brainstorming. And brainstorming a plan is as simple as for my chapter, we just threw ideas back and forth until we found something that, hey, that might work. So, anyone out there, do you just want to share all of the stuff that you heard about why we choose to seek our frontiers, everything that we discussed about? Is there anything you can think you might be able to do as a chapter, as a group?
Okay, so I think the reason we seek knowledge or anything really is survival and influence, which go hand in hand. Let's think about it this way. When we when you have knowledge, you have influence. You instantly gain respect from people around you if you like show knowledge. If you show that you know something better, someone might assume that you're like more well suited towards the role. I could walk into a room, no one knows me, but if they ask a question, I can answer that question efficiently and bring about like history or mathematics or some kind of knowledge that I know. They automatically assume that I know more about it, and they may think I'm smarter than I really am. They have more respect for me. I gain more influence. I can use that influence to my advantage. And being able to do that helps me survive. I can say, convince someone that I'm smart, they provide me a job opportunity, I can make some money, I can buy food, I can provide for a family, I can survive, have offspring. It's all about like influence and survival in the end. Now,
Also, I was thinking about the fact that leaders, a lot of leaders, have an innate ability to lead. I witnessed an accident once, and there were quite a few people in the area, but there was one person that stood out because they stood up and started telling everyone else what to do in an instant. It was an innate ability inside of them to start making sure that everyone else around them was okay. So a lot of times a person will choose to lead because it's in them to lead. And these are the people that we want to search out around us and to train that innate ability to become better, I guess, trained to have the right kind of leadership abilities.
Okay, I have a follow-up question for you then. If it's an innate ability, what characteristics do you think come from that innate ability that make people leaders? I mean, anybody can
Nicholas Tesla, people that didn't care about the great things that came out of it or the fame and success that came out of it, but the actual enjoyment of doing something that they love doing. And I think that if we all just identify what we're passionate about and why we want to do anything at all, why you're in college, why you're moving forward, I think that will get you moving on the frontier.
As it goes on, because you just said something, and that was, which by the way, I got to stop right now and go, wow. All of you. Wow. Great job. The whole part about empowerment, we have fuse meetings where we're all in our own homes and we meet and we talk, and the night that they came up with this, I think I wrote on 8 sheets of paper all of their notes and went, wow. I'm still saying wow. And one of the things that we talked about, and as you brought that up, I said to them, empowerment, that's where we got to the word, right? I said, you are all college students. Somewhere along the line, someone gave you the empowerment to be a college student, to be here. There are so many that aren't given that empowerment, even to be. So that's the opposite side of this. And what is their responsibility? What is our responsibility once we have this knowledge? Once we have it, is it to give it back, right? And so that's where we why they have 6 different views. And the other thing that I want to just touch upon, because we want to get to lunch, is the reason we do a Regional Honors and Action Project is for those chapters that are not able to, and there's not one in this room, I don't think, that have a full officer board or a fully activated chapter. They go, you know what, we can't do an Honors and Action. But one of the things you can do, if you participate in the Regional Honors and Action Project that we set up, that also will count towards your 5-star chapter development. So that's the reasoning behind the Regional Honors and Action Project. Okay? You may all not participate in what they're doing, But the main purpose of what they're doing today is to model that whole process of creating the Honors in Action project.
Right, just to summarize, something that may have gone over somebody's head, maybe not. Okay, one thing they did not do, they didn't put a cart before the horse. They did things step by step. The word collaboration was mentioned. The word collaboration you will have an answer to when you write your hallmarks at the end of the year. The 3 areas you can collaborate. Now, most of you are very familiar with the third one, which is we designed a project and we'll get together with a chapter down the road or a chapter across the state. We're going to collaborate. We're going to show up and do one thing one day, clean park or do something like that. That's collaboration, yes. But there's 2 other areas that have the potential for you to collaborate, and each one of your chapters and your Honors in Action projects strengthened by it. One of them is the research. Honors in Action requires you to do research and then discuss the research and come up with conclusions. This is the team that came up with their own conclusions. What's to say that they can, well, you, if they were a chapter, cannot get together with another chapter, will be face-to-face, online, and discuss similar research and come up with conclusions and discuss that. Then we go into the actual reasons why they're going to be doing whatever they're going to be doing. And that's the other part of collaboration. Okay? You do research, and then what does that tell us? What did you learn from that? So again, wait before you get to action, get to the part of collaboration. Oh yeah, well, we're going to go to lunch now, but you know, no, sitting here, I realize it's kind of warm, so. Unrelated to Honors in Action, unrelated to anything else, as of noon, there's a very important World Cup soccer game between Colombia. I just heard a tweet, Colombia's winning 1-0, but there's at least 3 Colombians in the crowd. Please stand up. I've come to the conclusion that it's too warm in here, so I think I don't need 2 shirts.